Okay, for numbers 23 through 25, we are completing this proof. And the proof says, given that angle 1, the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle D, and that the measure of angle 1 is also equal to the measure of angle B. So since these things are given, we can go ahead and mark those on our figure. So I know that these two angles here are congruent according to what it says, and then I know these two here are congruent also according to what that says. So let's look at our proof. The first thing in our proof says that measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle D. I know that because it's given. The second thing says the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle B. Again, I know that because it's given. The third one says that line AB and line CD are parallel to each other. So what we have to figure out is, how do I know that these two are parallel to each other? So let's look at number 23. It says, which reasons justify the statement for step 3 in the proof? So how do I know that, what can I use as a reason to say that these two lines are parallel? 1, it's given. No, it's not given. These are the two given, so can't be A. B, if two lines are cut by a transversal and the corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. That is true, but that doesn't prove these two. These are not corresponding angles. So that can't be a reason for me to say these two lines are parallel. C, it says if two lines cut by a transversal and the alternate interior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. And that is true. These are alternate interior angles, and they are congruent to each other. The only time they are congruent to each other is when the lines are parallel. So the correct answer for 23 would be C. For 24, it says to give reasons to justify statement 4 in the proof. So statement 4 in the proof is that line AD, which is this one right here, is parallel to line BC. So again, we have to figure out what justifies me to be able to say that these two lines are parallel to each other. It's not given, because we know these two are what was given to us. B says if two lines are cut by a transversal and the corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. And that is true. These two angles right here are corresponding angles. They are congruent to each other. Therefore, the lines that the transversal intersects are your parallel lines. So B would be the correct answer here. So now what I've done is I've stated a reason why these two are parallel, and I've stated a reason why these two are parallel. So the last statement says that quadrilateral ABCD is a parallelogram, and I'm able to say that it's a parallelogram because of the definition. The definition of a parallelogram says it has opposite sides parallel, or two pairs of sides that are parallel to each other. And I've just shown that in my proof that these two are parallel and these two are parallel. So by definition, this is a parallelogram. Now remember, if I flip this proof around and I'm given that it's a parallelogram and I'm trying to find that these angles are congruent, then these things flip in my proof. Okay? If I'm given that it's a parallelogram, then I know that these two are parallel because of the definition. And then I can go on to say that these are congruent. So just remember the way that you don't always have to state the definition before you state your reasons if you're trying to prove that definition. 26. It says which reasons could be used to prove a parallelogram is a rhombus. So remember, a rhombus is a parallelogram with four congruent sides. Also, a rhombus, the diagonals bisect each other because it's a parallelogram. They also are perpendicular to each other because it's a rhombus. The diagonals are not congruent to each other. That is a property that is specific to rectangles. And a rhombus is not a rectangle, so it can't be A. Opposite sides are parallel. Yes, they are in a rhombus, but that doesn't prove that my parallelogram is a rhombus because all parallelograms have opposite sides parallel. Diagonals are perpendicular. That is a reason, that is a property that is true for a rhombus, that the diagonals are perpendicular to each other. So let's just check the last one. It says opposite angles are congruent. All parallelograms, that is a property for all parallelograms, that opposite angles are congruent to each other. So this C is the only one that is specific for just a rhombus, that the diagonals are perpendicular to each other.